All I knew was that this was pick and mix religion, so I thought I'd prefer to try and find a story that sort of spoke to that somehow. And in fact, just listening to Spirit of Life and Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, this sort of feels like just the most perfect thing to have found. I've changed it ever so slightly. I couldn't find a copy of the book, and I'm useless at doing all that downloady business, so I actually ended up transcribing it, and I gave it a tiny bit of a Kiwi tweak, so I think you'll really like it. It's called Old Tuatara. Long ago, before we arrived on Earth, and back when all the animals could talk to each other, they began to wonder where they had come from and what their creator might be like. Who do you think God is? They began to ask each other. And a great murmuring of voices began. Before too long, a bit of an argument had started. I think God is deep and flowing and all around me, said the fish as she came up for air. No, said the rabbit. God springs high up above the grass and smells of clover in summertime. The lion interrupted and roared. He is a strong hunter who faithfully protects his pack. No, God is gentle, chirped the sparrow. He is a constant and faithful companion, barked the dog between scratches. God is free, said the deer. I have felt her swiftness and agility as she keeps up with my every move. A tiny voice said, God is very close. He has a sound and a feeling. It was Ant. From beneath the ant's tiny legs, a smooth stone whispered, My God is a great rock that never moves. Nearby, a mountain began to rumble, and the animals looked up at his white-crested shoulders. God is a snowy peak, sitting high above the clouds, he thundered. Rolling down the mountains came a gentle breeze. She whispered, God is the very air that we breathe and is never still. From on high, a silver star twinkled. God is a radiance far, far away. One of the trees shook its branches and cried, God has her roots deep within this earth, and she is always growing. You are all wrong, said a small island. God is quite separate and stands solitary and alone. Never, thundered the waterfall. God is like a river that runs through all things. God shines above all others, like the shining sun, said the blue sky. And so it was that their notions of the Creator went on and got louder and louder until, Stop, said an unfamiliar voice. While his voice seemed to rumble like the mountains, it was somehow almost gentle, like a child's sneeze. Where did this new voice come from? The animals and all life looked around them. It was old Tuatara. Many did not know his voice, as he so seldom spoke, and certainly would never enter an argument. Old Tuatara climbed slowly up onto a rock and began to speak. God is absolutely deep, he said to the fish in the sea, and much higher than high, he agreed with the mountains, stars and sky. He is swift and free as the wind, while still being solid as a great rock, said old Tuatara to the breeze and the stones. She is the lifeblood of the world, he said to the river. Close by, and yet far out of reach, he whispered down to the ants and up into the heavens. God is gentle and powerful, above all things and within all things. God is all that we dream of and all that we seek, said old Tuatara. all that we come from, and all that we will ever find. God is. Old Tuatara had never said this much before, and all the others fell silent as they listened to his words. But he hadn't finished. A new family of beings is coming to our world. They are strange and wonderful and will be a reminder to us all of all that God is. They will have many colours and shapes, each with their own face and many unique ways of speaking. Their thoughts and dreams will soar with the stars, but their feet will walk firmly on the earth. They will possess many powers and much creativity. They will be strong but tender. They are a message of love from God to the earth, and their breath and very being will be a prayer of thanks from all of us on the earth back to God. And the people did come, but they soon forgot. They forgot that they were a message of love and a prayer breathed out from earth. Before too long, they too began to argue. They argued about who knew God and who did not. Many thought that they could own God, that he was finite and was there just for them. They argued about where God was and where God was not. They fought about God's existence and her many names. And sometimes the people misused their powers, hurting and killing each other because of their beliefs. And finally, over time, they even hurt the earth until the forests and the rivers started to die. The animals and the air, the oceans and the sky all began to suffer because the people had forgotten who they were and where God might be. And so it was, until one day there came a distant voice, somehow powerful and mighty, but also soft as a small child's sneeze. Please stop. The voice seemed to come from a mountain who rumbled, sometimes I see God swimming in the dark blue depths of the sea. And the ocean replied, he is often among the highest snow-capped peaks, reflecting the sun. The stone said, I sometimes feel her breath as she blows by. The breeze whispered, I feel God's still presence as I dance among the rocks and the treetops. High above, the stars declared, God is very close. And the island added, his love is steadfast and touches everything. And after a long and sometimes scary time, more and more of the people began to listen, and eventually they too heard. They began to recognize God within one another, no matter what name or ritual he had been given. They began to see God's presence within the beauty of all that was around them. And old Tuatara smiled, and so did God.